Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video here on the channel. We have another meta-analysis coming your way, and I'm once more joined by my moderator and friend, iCentrix, aka Philip. Philip, how are you doing today?
I'm feeling great. Thank you for having me on here, and I'm excited we're gonna talk about a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Now.
We are, and I mean, it's the week of Voiceless Bologna, so if
Yeah.
you want to already before the event know what's going to win the event, you're in the right place here because we are going to tell you what currently the best decks of the format are. So I would say without any further hesitation, you should make sure to press the subscribe button here on the channel and also like this video and leave your opinion in the comments. But we are getting straight into the action now. First deck on the list. We cannot disregard it because it keeps on performing here in Europe. Second place finisher of YCS Lille, the
Yeah.
plant deck. Is it going to be successful this time around again? What do you think?
Okay, so it's been a classic by now. I mean, we always talk about that aromatherapy jasmine here on the screen first, and I always say the deck is not competitive anymore, and then it's like very close to winning an event. And I'm a big fan of tradition, and so I will say we do the same as always. Plants are not good right now. They are a rogue deck, and that's where they belong to.
I think so too. And then Julius just comes out of nowhere again and proves us wrong. But I mean, to be fair,
Probably.
you gotta admit that even, I mean, maybe he's just bored of playing it for so long, but even Julius lately did not play Plants. I mean, probably he
Yeah.
still played like 5 hours of Plants gameplay per day, but like at regionals, he was playing Mermail. So maybe that's
Yeah.
already a tell of the situation that Plants are in at the moment. So yeah, going to be interesting to see
Yeah.
whether even, I would say the maximum amount of Plant stacks in top 64 of YC's Bologna, because it will be top 64 again, is probably
Yeah.
one, to be honest. There's probably at best, and that's
I
like
would
for
say one at
probably,
max, yeah.
yeah, there's probably like, that's probably like the number for all of the rogue decks, right? There could be one of those sneaking into the top cut.
Yeah.
That's just the case with rogue decks. If there's a good pilot with one deck, they can always have the chance to make it. But just like ranking it by pure power level, disregarding the pilot standing behind the deck, and that's what we're trying to make here, kind of, because a good pilot can basically also like play the worst deck of all time and he's still going to be
Yeah.
successful with it. But yeah, just disregarding the pilot, it's a rogue deck. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean it's like very weak to a lot of non-engine that's being played right now, and even if you play
Yeah.
like to it perfectly, I think you're at a disadvantage compared to meta decks.
Yeah, I see. I would think so as well. And then already talked about it there very
Yeah.
briefly. The deck apparently that Julius is enjoying more nowadays is Mermail.
Yeah.
And I enjoy the position that Mermail is in right now in the format a whole lot more as well, because this deck is crazy. And I think this deck is actually a deck, it brings a lot to the table that I would expect from a deck to be a really, really good contender in a format. Because first of all, it has an insanely powerful going first turn because it will be able to like just completely rip apart the opponent's hand, making
Yeah.
them almost impossible, incapable of playing the game. So you like already have like kind of auto wins against decks like Breaker, Tenpai, or something like that, because you're just discarding their entire hand before they can even have the chance to activate Raigeki, Lightning Storm, and Feather Duster, and so on. So that's like really, really cool to have. And then additionally to that, they just play so freaking well into fields as well. They're like really good going second too. So honestly, I'm really impressed by Mermail. Oh, okay, you're already shaking your head. Aren't you that impressed with Mermail going second?
I think Mermail is a very good deck. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I want to emphasize first. I don't think the deck is bad by any means. I think it's like definitely a lot better than the Plants deck, as an example.
Agreed, agreed.
I also one advantage of decks as well. It can play Dominus Impulse, one of the
Yes,
format defining hand traps for sure.
totally.
The problem I have though is for me, like of course the hand ripping aspect is very good of the deck, but ripping cards from your hand gets countered very, very well by cards like Fuvalos and Purulia,
True,
which give
true.
like the opponent more cards in hand
Yeah.
and also more ways to interrupt you. And there, I think it's a problem. Also, Shifter is very good against the Mermail deck, but that card is good with a lot of decks. That's not the reason. The
Fair.
the bigger issue I think like is that a deck like Snake Eye is for me in many cases just a better Mermail deck.
Okay, okay. Fire still beats water, huh?
Yeah, for me, fire still beats water right now. But I don't want to take anything away from Mermail. I'm very sure we will see some in Top Cut.
Same,
Maybe
yeah.
one or two.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure for me if I would like. I personally wouldn't put it much higher than the top of Rogue. But I think
Okay.
like it can also deserve its place in high potential because the deck itself is very, very strong in the right hands. That's for sure.
So I would have definitely been a little higher in that ranking. I would have been
Yeah.
between two categories, but like not the two categories you were thinking of.
Okay.
I would have been between challenger and high potential, and I would have not been sure on where to put it then. But like, if you're leaning towards going lower in the list, I
Yeah.
guess we can then just pretty comfortably meet at high potential.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's fine with me. The only thing I feel like is I think the deck is right now a bit overrated.
Okay.
Being overrated doesn't mean your deck is bad by any means.
True.
I just think like people think it's a way better. It's a lot better than it actually is because like they enjoy the deck very much and the deck is very enjoyable and the deck still is strong, but I don't think it's like as strong as the meta right now.
I think the category high potential is very good for decks that are still pretty new because I think a lot of people, even though it does have some spotlight right now, that Mermail deck, I think a lot of
Yeah.
people still just don't really know what the new cards are necessarily doing. Maybe they know what they're
Probably, yeah.
doing, but they don't know how to interact and interrupt the Mermail deck. So I feel like there is still that little bit of an upside as one of the newer decks where people don't necessarily know perfectly yet how to play against the decks. So I think perfectly fits into the high potential category, and I do think that we are definitely going to have at least two. I think we're going to see at least two players making it to top 64 at YCS Bologna, yeah.
I could
think,
agree on that, yeah.
Yeah? Okay, cool. I think that's a good trend because this video is very much tailored towards the metagame of YCS Bologna, as that's like the big event happening this weekend. So I like the idea of just putting a number to every deck that we're talking about, okay? Like a rough number, rough estimate what we think, how many people are going to make it in with that deck. Let's stick to that. Next deck on the list is Branded.
Yeah.
All-time classic, right? And I mean, this is the first question. What do you think is better right now going second, Branded or Mermail?
I think Mermail is better, honestly.
Okay.
But also because I think Branded is very bad right now. Like, very bad. Yeah, so the major issue with Branded is it was always like the one big combo deck that can play through boards, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And also is like very strong with first because it's hard to hand trap. But
True.
now, with a card like Dominus Impulse as well, like there's like 6 copies of Ash Blossom that can like negate your Branded fusion.
Yeah.
The deck itself does not have the advantage. Like Mermail. Mermail can play Dominus Impulse. Like we already said it, one of the best hand traps of the format. Mermail can play it. Branded cannot, because it consists of dark monsters. I don't know what. Not only dark monsters.
True.
Yeah, but like they can't really play it. And also, it doesn't fit like into your game plan of like a lot of hand traps. So
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
And I mean, also, game one, I think the likeliness of winning with Branded is decently high. But then game 2 and 3, you're going to play like a lot of those games where the opponent is just going to play Frost into D-Barrier, just simply drawing the D-Barrier itself. Like, D-Barrier is such an incredibly popular card at the moment. And
true.
You gotta say, like, D-Barrier has for the last couple of formats always been popping in and out. And whenever it is in, Branded is not necessarily a good pick because it's just... Yeah, I know now the Branded players are probably going to say in the comments, yeah, but you just play on the turn after then. What does it matter? You're just not fusion summoning that turn, but then the turn after, guess what? When they set up a field into you, then you're not allowed to fusion summon on that turn.
Yeah.
Turn after, like you're still playing to a field of a deck. Like, that's not going to happen, man. So, it's not a high potential deck at the moment, right? I think we gotta go down to a rogue category, right?
It's rogue, and it's below plants to me even.
Yeah.
Because both decks really use it. One small mistake I just had, like, of course, the deck from pure attributes, theoretically, it probably maybe could play Impulse or so, but like hand traps just don't fit in the idea of a Branded deck.
Yeah, for sure.
That doesn't give you anything.
Yeah. I mean, still, of course, there might be that one guy running through because he wins all the coin tosses and just resolves the Albion into Gimmick Puppet combo all weekend long. So I will say my expected number for this in Top Cut is probably 1. Like, there's so many Branded players out there. There's still going to be plenty of them joining the tournament. So I would say 1, but I would definitely not go higher, and I would also very much not be surprised if it's just 0, to be honest.
Yeah. That's what I wanted to say. Like, yeah, of course, 1 can always sneak in. That's probably correct for probably like any
Most
deck
of the decks,
in
yeah.
for like any deck in the format. But if you ask me 1 or 0, I'll tell you 0.
Okay, yeah,
But
that's
that's
fair.
not a
That's
good
fair.
sign for a deck.
Absolutely. Also, thanks for the follow that just came in. So if you're watching this right now on YouTube, be reminded that all of this also right now is live recorded on my Twitch. So all the links are in the description. So next time, be with us when we record this live, and you could be getting the info about the format before it even is uploaded to the YouTubes. But next deck on the list is one that you have some history with, right? You have been playing this a little bit lately, and it also in general is very, very popular at the moment. And that is going to be Centurion. And Centurion is a deck I have very, very high hopes for this weekend. I think Centurion is probably going to have its best YCS performance of all time, if you ask me. Not necessarily saying it's going to win the event, but I think an overall top cut representation. There was a subscription even. Cheers, let's go. Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for the sub. Appreciate it. And I think Centurion is very, very strong. I will start, like usually we said it at the end, but I'll start with the number. I'm calling... Oh, I don't want to go too high, but I want to go kind of high. I'll call 6 Centurion decks in top 64.
Okay, I think that's also a realistic number. So,
right?
I like you said, like, and I already heard it. You will likely put it in Challenger.
Yeah,
and I completely agree with you. The only thing I see like is I don't think Centurion will perform very good in Bologna.
Okay, why is that?
Just because I feel like people are also like trying to slowly pick up a card like super polymerization.
Oh yeah,
and yeah, I mean we saw that in like especially Memento decks playing the super poly, but also some other decks can think about fitting the super poly because like they can probably sacrifice 2 to 3 slots in their extra deck. And Centurion has a very hard time playing around it always because of the new fusion from Rage of the Abyss, and I don't know how it's really called.
It's called the Dinkabui fusion. No, it's called Chaos Dragon or something. Yeah. But it's literally spelled like Ka, which is really funny.
Yeah, and their problem is if someone resolves Super Poly on you and summons the Chaos Dragon, like how I will call now, you lose on the spot. The game is just over.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
That's a huge problem. I've also the deck, though having some extenders, does not play super well into hand traps always. Because you have some hands where you just play through 2 to 3 hand traps, but you also have some hands where you just like do your normal summon and then pass if you get negated on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a general approach, but I don't know whether people are going to do that though, because I think when, like, before the support, before the Charmies and everything, where Centurion was not necessarily one of the best decks, or not like even deserved a spot in Challenger, I think it was very common to see that people would just imperm the Auxilla, or like usually like the big synchro monster. And I talked about that with you as well in the past. At the moment, that might not be the correct point to hand trap them anymore, right? Because there's like a decent amount of extenders nowadays. So, like, for example, imperming Auxilla can still be fine. Nowadays, it might just be better to just immediately go after the first play. So it's really tough. Like, people might not be really adjusting to the way the Centurion deck is played at the moment. So I think it's going to be interesting to see. And I mean, the main selling point, of course, why Centurion even is that popular at the moment is, first of all, of course, the new support cards. There's a Synchro 8 now. Archery is pretty cool. But even more so, personally, I would say, it is because the main free hand interactions right now in the format, or like, let's say the most impactful ones, the 2 Mold Charmies and also the Dimension Shifter, they aren't necessarily that great against this deck. And therefore, I think that's a huge upside to the deck, because you can just play through those quite decently.
No, I don't want to take... I don't want to take that much away from the deck. The only issue I have is that I think the deck is good, but I don't think it's like as close to the top meta spot as a lot of people hope it to be. Because the deck is quite fun, the deck is quite good. another issue I have is like Bestials are fine in the deck, but they are not like that good going second right now.
True.
Because you really need to stop your opponent completely with Centurion, because pushing through with the engine is very, very tough, because you can interrupt the deck quite early, because it has a limited amount of extenders.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the issue I see with the deck. Another plus point for it, though, is it's quite cheap compared to the other decks.
True. And I think one last plus point I will say, it's supposed to be really good into Tenpai, right? Because of the Chimera effect in the spell and trap zone, like making everything not being able to be destroyed by card effects, and that like it should, in theory, I've seen it different plenty of times now, but in theory, this should be pretty good into Tenpai. And Tenpai, of course, speaking of cheap, still very cheap, but also very, very strong. I mean, it's arguably not even that cheap anymore nowadays with like the Fuvalos and the Impulse and everything, but still, Tenpai is going to be very, very well represented in terms of numbers overall. But now give me a number. You're going lower than 6, man?
Yeah, because no, I would say like 4 to 5. So we are closer than I thought. Because when you like started your discussion, I thought like you say like 8 to 10.
Yeah.
There was like 8 to 10 would be quite high. Yeah. But yeah, I would say like 4 to 5 probably.
Yeah, fair enough. Sounds about right. Then next up on the list, Chimera. And honestly, Chimera, for me personally, was one of those decks that I could have seen doing really, really well at YC's Lille. And I mean, we had a couple of them in Top Cut. They were doing all right, but they were not going all the way. I think the total number for YC's Lille in the end was 2, I believe.
Yeah, 1 or 2, something like that.
Yeah, and we had, I think it was, no wait, it was free actually. It was free, and it was super funny because 2 of them had a mirror match in top 32, and then Julius played the third one also in top 32. So like, and then Julius played the winner of the mirror match, played them again in top 16. So it was like Julius knocking out all the Chimera players.
Yeah.
So it was free actually. And I mean, we only played top 32, so if we just, like, think that one step further, taking that number, transitioning it to YC's Bologna, where it will be top 64, that would mean we would get up to 6.
Please don't do that.
I also have doubts about that, to be honest.
No,
I don't know.
There was like a whole core set in between.
Yeah, that's the thing.
The Abyss. And Chimera really, really suffers from the new format. It's like a bit like caught in a crossfire. That's how it feels like. Because the deck, like no one really prepares for the Chimera deck, but all the cards against Chimera deck, they are just like kind of good against them. So, because like the cards like Deep Barrier, you already mentioned it, go into the side decks, very, very strong versus Chimera. And also like they can hardly play under Fuvalos. I mean they can, but they will make like such a so much weaker end field.
Absolutely.
While it makes really no sense, because you can do weaker boards on the Fuvalos, but if you're like then stuck on your end board with like 3 cards in your hand, which are all extenders, you're thinking to yourself, okay, now I have 3 dead cards.
Yeah, I see that. It to me kind of feels like Memento is the new Chimera, right? Because they're like a little similar in playstyle, because they're both fusion decks, but are also using different summon mechanics.
Exactly.
They are like having kind of cool and exotic combos, and it just feels like Memento is a little bit better at the moment. It has like kind of taken the spot over from the Chimera deck, and we're kind of talking it down, and I don't think we will have the chance to put it into high potential, right? And then we just have to put it into Rogue, sadly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think for me it's a Rogue deck, probably the best of the Rogue decks there, because it has plays under Fuvalos. It can play a bit under Deep Barrier, because Chimera Fusion being a quick spell. Also, it can try to do some Fiendsmith combos probably under Deep Barrier, but not good enough to be like competing with the top decks of the format.
I agree. So in raw numbers, I will say, I'll give the honorable 1 again. I think 1 Chimera Fiendsmith deck will probably be topping. I would be very surprised if it would be. Like, I was doing the mathing example at the beginning. We had 3 in Lille, so that would equal to 6 here in Bologna, but I don't think we're going to see that at all. I think the success of the Chimera deck is going to be way, way, way lower. And speaking of very low success, the next deck on the list is going to be Exodia Millennium. No, I don't know. This one, Tell me about your experience, because you literally just played this deck last weekend at an event, and
Yesterday, honestly,
give
yeah.
me yesterday actually. So give me your resume about the deck after piloting it now for one tournament.
Yeah, Exodia best deck, just draw all 5 pieces and you win. No,
Okay.
no, I'm just joking, of course. The deck is horrible. I'm sorry to break it to you.
No.
I like playing the deck, but honestly, going first, you don't have like many win cons except like somehow getting to your fusion and then activating Secret Village. That's like your main win con. To be fair, you play 5 copies of Secret Village, or four or 5.
Yeah. Doesn't
So
sound that bad.
yeah, but the problem, like I only played versus fire decks.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of Tenpai, a lot of Fire King and so. And all of them, of course, played Dominus Impulse. And at that point, you're just like paying yourself to death with all the Millennium monsters from the Spell and Trap Zone.
Mm-hmm.
And if you like have to pay because you get negated, you have to pay like twice or thrice. Then like you have your Exodia can gain attack equal to your life, but then in the end it just gets to like 2,000 attack because you only have 2,000 life points left.
Yeah, true. That's a pretty
then
big
it's
disadvantage.
quite fragile. And
Also, what I was wondering, going second, this deck literally just has Shifter, right? Or is there anything else that is going strong for the deck going second?
I mean, you have the Fuvalos as well.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. I guess that's like a staple for everyone.
Yeah, not really. I think I played and I also think it's common, like the Super Poly, which is a good card.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, I mean, you play like so many bricks. I also like had so many of the Exodia pieces in hand. That feels horrible because you also can't really discard them.
Yeah.
I mean, you can later when your Exodias on the field because the trap recycles them. But you can like start with Super Poly, discard, lag or so, because then you can activate Ankh.
Yeah, that's true. So it's really cool to see that first the Yubel deck was brought back into the meta game. Now the Exodia deck also brought back, like, reviving those super old archetypes. I mean, I don't even know whether you can call Exodia an archetype, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think that's a very, very cool tendency. But like the Yubel deck already had the Yubel and the Terror Incarnate as their bricks, which is 2 bricks, but now the Exodia deck has 5 bricks. That's like crazy for nowadays standards. And I mean, the deck is also not necessarily a deck you want to play with like a super high deck count, right? Like, how many cards did you run, for example?
I ran 45, and I think 44 to 45 is like the standard thing.
You have to, right? Because otherwise you're just drawing those pieces too much. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is, I think the deck is completely fine, but not if you want to top in YCS.
Yeah, of course.
Regional. I think I'm not surprised if people say like, or load up deck profiles of them like topping with Millennium Exodia. I'll say, yeah, okay, I can guess why.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, but I wouldn't like pick it for YCS or so. So I think it's like a classic rogue. I think it's possible for 1 or so to top, but I wouldn't expect it as well. It's like with Branded. If you ask me 1 or 0, I'll say 0.
Yeah. Do we put it behind Branded?
For me, it's above Branded, honestly, because you can play Shifter. That's the only reason. But I wouldn't pick it above Plants, probably, which is not a good sign.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I can see that. It's cool to see, like, just that Exodia piece there, even on the meta breakdown, I think. Like, it's a very fun gimmick to have, but it's really not that... it's really not looking that fantastic, I gotta agree. I would say we'll have one, though. I think there is going to be one lonely Exodia player making it, I'm pretty certain.
I hope you're right.
Yeah, I mean, because that would also, like, bring us some hype for the coverage. Like, let's be real, if there's Exodia and Top Cut, I'm going to follow them, and hopefully they're going to make, like, a crazy run. That would be so fun.
It's also kind of cool that the Exodia deck can also, like, side Sphere mode. I think so. That's
full anime experience, yeah. Full anime experience.
Yeah.
For real, yeah. That would be pretty fun. But I mean, also as a general disclaimer here for this whole thing, for people wondering, because we're very strict with some of the decks, like saying, hey, they don't really have the best situation in the metagame right now. But you gotta realize we're talking about a YCS coming up, and if you want to top a YCS, you're literally, just by pure math, required to have a win rate of like 80% plus to make it into the top cut. So doing that is not easy, you know? And therefore we have to be strict with those decks. And
that's also not the only thing. There's like a limited amount of decks that can top, in fact. So if you're like probably your deck is good, but if it's not like amongst the top like 8 decks or so, the chance of it topping like lowers significantly.
Yeah, for sure. So Exodia, bro, it's a fantastic and fun deck. Philip played it because it looks so fun and he likes the idea of it, you know? It's a cool little funny gimmick.
And it wasn't
And
as bad as I thought.
look at that. Yeah, like you didn't do that bad with it, right? You actually won like a decent amount of matches.
Yeah, I went like 4-1 in Swiss, and one match didn't conclude, but I would have likely lost that. So
Okay. Yeah,
4-1, 4-2.
Sounds about right, for sure.
Yeah.
Europe is an anime region, you will see. I mean, we just had Yubel winning, so I guess, yeah. Yubel won and Exodia next. I would love that as a storyline, not gonna lie. Like having Bologna being won by Exodia. That one guy that tops you will do it.
Not,
He will
let's not
pull
waste
through.
too much time on Exodia. Let's come to the real dogs. Let's come to Fire King.
Right on top,
Yeah,
right into
top
the top
meta.
meta category, for
Yeah,
sure. I
well,
mean,
the deck is just so good right now. Yeah.
it's really good. And I mean, also, it has proven that it is up there with the back-to-back YCS wins from Lennon Oliver, of course, which, interestingly enough, is also going to be in Bologna. So maybe he's going to go for the free peak. I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I think this is definitely... Is this the best deck of the format right now? Asking that directly?
That's what I want to ask you, but I'll tell you, for me, no, it is not.
For you, it's not. I mean, it's definitely up there, though. That's why it is in the top meta category, so it will be up there for sure. But I think it's close. It maybe... I want to say we don't have a clear best deck at the moment, right? Or do you think we have?
I have a pick. For me, the Fire King deck is the third best deck of the format, but very close to the top 2 dogs.
Fair. Yeah, and I mean also it's only the Ulcanix there as the picture, but of course usually you're going to bring in some Azamina cards in there as well. The Snake Eye cards obviously as well. So just seeing the Ulcanix there does not mean that we are talking about pure Fire King, because like probably every version that we're going to see is going to play those Azamina cards.
Yeah, but I want to go like a bit deeper on Fire King, because just
for sure,
saying like it's the best deck, I think that's like not a good explanation. So the reasoning is, I think it's the deck with the highest ceiling right now, which is a fair thing. Like I mean, the highest ceiling with like cards like Fuvalos in mind. Because they can actually play quite decently through Fuvalos.
True.
It's a bit harder under Purulia even for the deck.
Yeah,
the deck
it's funny.
Still do a bit under Purulia. The issue I have is like the amount of breaks you have and how dependent you are on drawing good hands. Because I also played like against a few Fire Kings this weekend, and sometimes it was like normal summon Ulcanix effect, Ash Blossom, and they just pass.
And that was it, yeah. I saw that a lot too, I agree.
Yeah, and that's like the biggest issue of the deck, because in theory, the deck has super good extenders. Like cards like Kieran, still so good. Like the Witches is getting you into the combo, Bonfire and so. Also, sometimes drawing Island is not the worst thing, because you can like activate and pop something. But like in general, just the chance of breaking, like having more dead cards in your hand, is an issue. The Snake Eye engine like really can at least use a lot of breaks still for cards like Deception or the Witch to discard. But still, you don't want to draw them, especially if you're going second. And that's why it's just the third best deck for me.
Third best deck, yeah. I mean, I can definitely see it. I still think it's definitely up there, and I will give a pretty high number in terms of representation. I think for me, it's also one of those decks that could just easily win it. It's definitely one of the decks where I would be I wouldn't be surprised at all seeing Fire King win this weekend. And I will give... it has to be somewhat of a high number. I think 1/3 of the top cut is going to be Fire King, so that equals... That is a lot, yeah. I'll say... Let's just say 21, which is roughly... Yeah, 21.
Yeah, I think you're way too high on that. Honestly. I would say like it's more like 12 to 14. That's what I think it's more. Because the deck is strong, but as I said, I think the problems are quite severe. But I might be wrong on that. So...
You will see. 21. 21, that's what I'm saying. 21 Fire King decks. But yeah, very, very good deck. I don't think it needs any further explanation, because it has been around for a while, but it's even stronger than it was back in the day. And Ulcanix, you cannot underestimate how impactful the release of this card was. This card is crazy in Fire King. And therefore, it is very much one of the top meta decks at the moment. And the next deck we have on the list is Voiceless Voice. And Voiceless Voice always is one of those decks where both of us aren't particularly excited about it because both of us don't really have the highest opinion on it. But I gotta say, right now might be the best moment to finally play Voiceless Voice. If you always wanted to play it and you always thought about bringing it to YCS, I think this might be the YCS where it would have the best chances of doing well, because just purely because of it being pretty damn good into those small charmies. And I think if you if you want your opponent to have like multiple bricks in their hands, that might be the way, right? Like, I can, like, because I never really had an argument for playing the deck in any of the events, but here I can at least find that argument for it, where I'm saying, hey, the end field is still not incredible, the combo doesn't really impress me whatsoever, but it does do very well in into those super relevant cards in the format right now.
I mean, let me tell you one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make myself some enemies now.
Okay.
If you say your deck plays well around Fuvalos and Purulia because it doesn't do a lot at all, that's not a good explanation, and that's where I categorize Voiceless Voice.
Fair.
It plays very well through Fuvalos and Purulia simply because it doesn't really do a lot. That's fine probably, but yeah. But on a serious note now as well, the deck is fine. I mean, it can top, of course, and I think it probably will top in, but I think just like 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's not how I would categorize a high potential deck.
No, I don't think we can go high potential. No.
Okay.
That's not what I was trying to go for. I was just, because usually we're like not getting a whole lot of positive energy towards the Voiceless Voice deck, and I thought this time around there actually is at least something that we can say about the deck, that it actually has something going for it. We also had that tournament last weekend with the Starlight Cup where a team involving Voiceless Voice made it all the way to top 4. I think actually your team even lost to the Voiceless Voice team in the end. So there is
probably, I don't remember.
Voices. Yeah, you immediately deleted that from your memory. I can understand that. But yeah, Voiceless Voice is it's not that I want to put it in maybe next time. I think we can put it into the rogue category.
No, rogue is okay, and we can even discuss if it's maybe like below Chimera and above plants. We could discuss about it. Just simply because I think more people will play it than the other decks. Because the deck is not like a fan favorite, but it's like a deck people like to play, simply because it's like a simple deck that can do a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think it's normally not enough, and because like if we go like from sheer numbers, if you ask me like I said 1 or 0 or 1 or 2, I would say like yeah, okay, I would guess 1 or 2 Voiceless Voice, but I would only guess 0 to 1 plants.
Yeah, I can definitely understand what you mean. Okay, let's put it
below
above plants.
Okay,
yeah, no, let's go above plants. Let's go controversial, because I mean, Voiceless Voice, just by pure numbers, this deck never has like done very well at any big event, right? Has it? I don't think we had any YCS where Voiceless Voice had a good run.
Like, and it will not start here today, so.
Yeah, so because and that, therefore it seems controversial to put it above plants, which literally just was second place at the last European YCS that we have. But I definitely understand your reasoning, because just by pure numbers, we will have more Voiceless Voice in the tournament.
Yeah.
And I could also see it happening that there is 2 Voiceless Voice in top 64. My number that I would think it will end up being is probably just another one-off in there, though. Yeah, I think one-off is good.
Yeah, but if you say me it's 2, I wouldn't be surprised. But if you say me, but if you tell me 2 Exodia topped, I would be surprised. So.
Fair enough. Also, speaking of surprised, honestly, I was a little surprised, because you prepared all the decks for me here. So first of all, thank you for that. But then about the Melodious deck being on here, because I haven't heard anything particularly crazy about Melodious for a very long time. I don't even know when I saw Melodious topping in any way, shape, or form in the last 3 months, I want to say.
I think it did a quite fine pre-rota.
Okay.
But not really good. The biggest issue of the deck right now is the new non-engine being that was introduced in Rage of the Abyss, because that completely cripples the deck. A card like Mulcharmi Fuvalos is like most meta decks have a way to play around it, and that's good. That makes them good. It makes them viable. But the Melodious deck in itself is like very inefficient in their summoning.
Yeah.
Which means they need to summon a lot to get to their interrupts
True.
that are like rather soft interrupts than hard interrupts.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
that's the biggest issue, because if you like to set up a 2-card bounce, if you like need to summon like twice of fries for it, that's like just not good enough. And also Dominus Impulse, another card that can negate Ostinato, that can negate first movement.
Yeah, just draw multiples, man.
Yeah, I mean you can do that at least, but
when they negate the first, just activate the next one. But yeah, honestly, I really like the only small reason that the deck has had going for itself for forever, since its introduction basically, is Herald of the Orange Light, I guess. Like, you can negate shifters, you have more answers to shifters and so on and so forth, but Herald of the Orange Light cannot even negate Dominus Impulse now, which is quite dramatic. And therefore, I think we have to be super strict now and put Melodious into maybe next time, honestly, if you ask me.
That's super harsh, but I probably agree.
Because here, I'm just going to
put it on the bottom of Rogue, but
I'm just going to give you the hard 0 on this one, honestly. I think, like, for all the Rogue decks we have set so far, I was probably one deck making it to top 64. I just can't see Melodious doing that.
I think it's okay. I heard it's okay versus Tenpai. I guess that's a point, but not if they resolve Fuvalos. Then you lose.
Also, not if they resolve Shifter, right?
Yeah, if they run Breakers, you also don't win. But theoretically, who knows?
Let's see.
Next time is right. No, maybe next time is right. Because the thing is, if you tell me one tops, I would be surprised.
Yeah, same for sure.
Yeah.
And now, over to the deck that I have been enjoying a whole lot over the last couple of weeks, that I've been talking up a lot, and that actually also in the end, for example, won the event this weekend, and there were also 2 in top 4 on top of that. Memento, baby. And Memento really is kinda getting up there at the moment, right? I looked at the regional topping list of this weekend, and basically any event, Memento in top 8, Memento in top 8, Memento in top 8. I think 2 regionals even were won by Memento. For example, Richard Schaber, the Memento Gold that already topped. Yours with it, won in, I think, Winterthur, like a Switzerland regional. Memento is up there and is going crazy, and I love it. I'm all there for it because I think the deck is really good. The Rota support, Akihiron is busted as a card. Holy, this deck was brought to a completely new power level. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I wouldn't go that far. Akihiron is not the reason the deck is so good. I mean, it's a piece, but it's like the deck has many other things going for it as well.
Just pushed it over the line, you know?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, like one small piece can sometimes make the big difference, right? No, what I want to say is like, I feel like Memento is like the most obvious under the radar deck right now. It's like it's so crazy. Like of course, like everyone right now like knows the deck, and everyone like is expecting the deck to like to this event be like the breakout deck for breakout event for the deck.
I certainly do, yeah.
Yeah, because right now we didn't see like really the deck putting up numbers at big events. We didn't really see it. We always saw like a few topping like some rogue decks normally do.
True.
But right now I feel like everyone has a deck on its radar. Probably because of like I don't know if they're the only 2, but the combined forces of like Richard Schaber, who you already mentioned, and also Ben Kreuzkamp.
For sure.
Who also like pilots the deck a lot. I think that really got the deck like on the list of everybody, and right now it's like the undercover deck everyone knows.
Yeah, knows. But then the question is, does it go beyond knowing the deck?
Yeah.
Does it go to where they actually know how to interrupt the deck? Because honestly, the deck is super complex. And I was just chatting to Ben Kreuzkamp, who you were just mentioning this weekend, and the thing with Memento is it's really hard to interrupt the deck. Only if you actually played it yourself, you kind of are getting the grasp of it. You kind of are understanding where it would be kind of nice to interact with the deck. And then actually those interactions can be really good if you do know what to do against it. But how many people have actually played Memento already when they're not playing it themselves for the YCS? So I don't know.
But that's where I gotta like step in, because I feel like right now every one of the best players, probably like of the top players, everyone has a Memento by now. I don't know how
Okay.
deep their
Okay.
knowledge goes.
Okay.
I don't know how deep their knowledge goes, but like if Ben like shows up like 2 or 3 weeks later with the Memento deck, I think it's like a whole different story.
Okay.
Like, because right now I think like the first regional where he was like successful. I mean, of course, Richard Schaber also like I also want to give him credit for performing with the deck, but I feel like since Ben like played like the first time, like I think it's like 3 weeks ago or so.
I think
People
this
have
Lacken
like
regional was kind of the first one, yeah.
yeah, and there I think like then people have like gone deeper and deeper like into like thinking, okay, maybe we should reconsider the strength of the deck. And that's right. I think like right now, like most of people will be prepared for the deck, but the
Fair.
question is, are they prepared enough to like use the low impact hand traps at the right spots? Because that's the toughest thing with Memento, I feel like.
For sure. Absolutely. It's not easy to interact with.
Yeah.
I'm questioning your point of view on that. I think
Okay.
it is still way more under the radar than you expect it to be. I
Okay.
don't think people are I mean, maybe the top players, but then like how many top players are you going to play in Swiss of a YCS, you know? Like we're talking about topping with the deck, and therefore you're probably like in the last 3 to 4 rounds, it's reasonable to play against 1 or 2. But
Yeah.
besides that, you're also going to just play against a lot of, let's just call them regular YCS attendees, not regular toppers. And I don't think people are aware of how to interact with the Memento deck on that level yet. I think it's rather more of a 2.0 version of the plant case, where we are just seeing people completely not knowing what to do against the deck, and it completely, yeah, people just won't read the Memento stuff, I guess. And I'm hoping that, because I have
Probably,
very,
yeah.
very, very high hopes with the deck. And I mean, I'm not going that crazy saying it's a top meta deck already, because it has no proof of that just yet. But
no,
I
for
do
sure.
absolutely want to put it into Challenger here, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like the thing I see is, I think the Tenpai matchup is very, very rough for the Memento deck. I think that's a thing a lot of players underestimate right now,
Yeah,
because we also saw like people like playing stuff like Heat Waves in Memento because
true,
they had
true.
no other like solution for the Tenpai deck, and that's a problem. Because if you're like with Memento, you are like taking an early loss in a tournament, you very, very quickly get into like playing a lot of Tenpais. Because I think Tenpai will be likely the most represented deck in Bologna, like at round 1.
Yeah, possibly.
And the deck like just naturally sometimes loses. That's just natural for the Tenpai deck. It just reaches a point where it
Sure.
maybe loses a match, and that can quickly happen. That's not like an issue for the deck, because you can like you don't need to go 12-0 to top an event.
Absolutely.
Luckily.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a point where like if you like have an early loss with Memento, you can quickly get into like 4 or 5 Tenpais in a row, and then I think you have a very tough time.
I think
But still,
Tenpai is
it's a
tough in
challenger
game
deck.
1, but I think game 2 and game 3. I mean, I have been playing the deck. Of course, I am like a little biased, of course, because I'm just enjoying the deck so much. But I also am very happy because it is actually seeing success on top of
Yep.
me having fun with it. So I think game 2 and 3 it can be alright against Tenpai. Game 1 definitely is a struggle. I agree. But yeah, I think a challenger deck for sure. Give me your hard opinion. Centurion or Memento, what's better?
I'll put Memento on top.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I think
Simply
Memento is
because
better.
of the reason a good player can make the difference with Memento, while it's tough to make the difference with Centurion, and that's why I think the deck is better. But I would like,
Agreed.
if you ask me, I don't know if it will top more than Centurion. But
Same for me, same for me.
Yeah, but if you ask me if the deck will go deeper in the tournament, I'll answer that with a clear yes.
Yep, I have the same problem. I don't know whether it's going to be that many Memento players making waves, and therefore I think I said 6 Centurions are going to top. And then 6 is already a high number for Memento. I will say I'll go with 5. I think we will have 5 Memento players topping, and that's already a decently high number, I feel like. But I think it could happen. 5 is realistic, I think.
Yeah, I would have said 4, and so I think like 4 and 5, that's pretty close by each other. So I think we can say 4.5 will top, right?
Sounds about right. Also, everyone, as we're doing this little guessing game here, the entire meta analysis, also give your opinion in the comments, you know? You can just give us all the numbers. Already write down top 64 of Voiceless Bologna. It's going to be that many Fire King, that many Memento. You can tell us before the event is over. And if one person, I will say it now, I'm randomly making this up right now, but I'm going to follow through if it actually happens. If you give me the exact breakdown of Voiceless Bologna before the event, so the comment has to be written before the event starts, all right? That is, I'm going to say, I'm going to give you one display of the current main set Rota, okay? If you can write it down, it has to be the exact decks, top 64, okay? That's a crazy thing to do, but if you can do it, head into the comments, try your luck, you have nothing to lose, and if you do it, I'm going to get in contact with you, shipping you a display your way, okay?
That's actually a real challenge.
It is a super hard challenge for sure, but I mean, you can try, there's nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing to lose is honestly not what I'm thinking about Yubel, because Yubel has everything to lose with it being the champion of YCS Lille in the hands of Noel. And since then, completely falling off. Holy, it's so crazy how little we see of Yubel. And there are very clear reasons for it. Of course, I was just saying I'm going to give away a box of Rota if that happens. But the release of Rota is the reason why this deck is so crippled at the moment. Because the format is different. Fuvalos is insanely good against the deck. Purulia already was really good against the deck. Shifter is still there. So it's just struggling into that. It's crazy how hard it struggles.
Honestly, I think you talk the deck worse than it actually is right now.
Okay.
Yeah, the deck is definitely not one of the top dogs anymore. I'll definitely agree on that. But I think the deck is a bit underrepresented right now.
Yeah.
Also like a bit underestimated of players, simply because they also don't want to play it at a regional. Because the deck itself, like, yeah, it's a cool anime deck, but like the playstyle is very like, yeah, I do combo or I lose. That's not what everyone likes. But the deck has a very, very good Tenpai matchup still, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And the thing that goes for all combo decks, that they can like the normal approach right now is that you try to like counter floodgate your opponent if you get like Fuvalos or shifted. And I think Yubel can simply do the same. They can just simply play like for Frosts, activate Frost, set D-Barrier or DDG, and they are okay. It's not crazy, but they are okay.
Yeah.
And also like still cards like Spirit of Yubel being very good against the Tenpai deck. Phantom of Yubel still going under the field spell of Tenpai, under the Sunken Summoning. Still makes the deck for me a very, very solid and very viable pick. And in my opinion, top of Challenger where it deserves its place.
Oh, okay, that would have been my question. Now you're immediately giving the answer before I even get the chance to ask it. Because last time, very clearly, it was a top meta deck. And I mean, it also underlined that by winning YCS Lille. And my question now would have been, is it even a top meta deck anymore? And you're immediately saying it's top of Challenger, so it's fallen off from the top meta category. And so you gave your statement on that. I kind of gotta say I agree. I also think the ceiling is super high. The deck, if it gets to full combo, is still probably the best combo deck in the room, realistically. But that is just not going to happen a whole lot when people are playing all those cards against it. And therefore, yeah, top of Challenger is probably where it belongs, honestly.
But I don't think that's like a bad thing. Like being in the top of Challenger is still a very good place. And I would say it's like the fourth best deck of the format, if you ask me.
Probably.
And yeah, because what I like always feel like when people right now like try to evaluate Yubel, I feel like they say like it's below Centurion and so. And that's what I think it's like wrong. I think like it's very close between top meta and Challenger. But if you ask me, I really don't want to have like 4 decks in a top meta spot if they don't have like equal power. And I think like there is a difference between Yubel and Fire King.
Yeah, I like the call from Ben right now in the Twitch chat saying, don't underestimate that Puck just made a video about Yubel. Honestly, that is kind of a factor, right? When like big names in the community are giving like their initiative to the people to play certain decks. I mean, they also topped the remote YCS with Yubel. They went like a different approach. They were playing Go second Yubel, which seems kind of crazy to me, but I mean they had success with it. So
plays around Fuvalos, I guess, right?
I guess it does for sure. But and I think they even they didn't even play Fuvalos themselves. It was complete madness. Like those lists were absurd, but they worked out. So who am I to judge? And also, I was talking to Tim G, of course, friend of the both of us, having really, really good success over the last couple of weeks at regional level as well. And he was saying actually Yubel was picking up in popularity again in the last
Yeah.
2 to 3 weeks. So maybe Yubel is going to be there again. I don't know. I'm also not thinking it's a top meta deck. But giving you the raw number again, I will say we will have. I will go 4 actually. I will go pretty low still. I don't
You
have the
say
highest
4?
hopes. I will say
Okay,
4.
that's crazy to me because I'll tell you something. I think like 8 to 9 Yubel will top, maybe even 10. Because I think like still the deck is quite good. And yeah, I mean you can't always get Fuva lost. And also like if you see the trend of people like deciding in specific decks like yeah we don't play Fuva loss, I think then the deck still gets stronger by default.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah,
For sure.
but Dominus Impulse is a problem for the deck. That's what I want to emphasize. Dominus Impulse is a big issue for the deck. Because as long as you don't start Lotus, like people can negate your Lotus, and you cannot like use Phantom of Yubel to negate that. That's an issue.
Yeah, I mean you can't negate Phantom. You can't negate Impulse anyways,
Dominus
right?
Impulse, yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing.
That
Yeah,
card is
that's what I meant.
so good. It's actually crazy.
But if you like normal Lotus, they cannot like impulse your Lotus because you have no cards on the field. But you need to open specifically Lotus.
Yeah, for sure. So next up on the list we have Rescue Ace, and Rescue Ace is in a bit of an interesting situation because
Yeah.
they do actually harmonize really, really well with the Azamina cards. I feel like Rescue Ace Azamina definitely is a deck not to be completely disregarded. Usually, I was very, very quick and very, very decisive on saying, hey, this is probably just the worst fire deck you could play at the moment, so why would you even think about it? But Rescue Ace Azamina is a version of the deck, and also Rescue Ace in general being one of the decks that plays around Fuvalos incredibly well, because, like, what could be better into Fuvalos than just summoning out Turbulence and setting 4 cards? I mean, you're living the dream at that point, to be honest. And therefore, I'm honestly quite convinced by Rescue Ace at the moment. And I think we may have had it in Rogue the last time around, and I kind of want to go over Rogue this time. To be honest, what's your take on it?
Where would you put it? Where would you put it?
High potential is a weird category to put it in, right? Because it's not really having super high potential per definition. It's like it's not really fitting for that. So kind of, is it a challenger though? It's weird. Probably it is still top of Rogue, right? But I kind of want to mention here that I have somewhat decent hopes with the deck.
Yeah, I can take off here. I think it's a high potential deck, and I think the category kind of fits.
Okay.
Because simply, in my opinion, race depends a lot on how people like plan their non-engine right now. That's I think the biggest thing with Rescue Ace, that you gotta probably think for yourself, like what you expect of people to do. Because in my opinion, the deck has problems if people play a lot of hand traps.
Yeah.
Because normally it's always like the same. If you have like one hand trap, it's hard to stop rescues. If you have 2, it's hard for them to push through. And I think that theory still applies, but I think it's like still a lot better for the deck right now than it was before, simply because of the Azamina cards also providing like an Omni Negate if they need it. And that's where I think like the deck really takes off. It has like so many power cards, and also if you're the Fire King deck itself can be quickly destroyed by a card like Retaliating Sea. That's a lot harder for the Rescuers deck to be destroyed by that completely.
True.
Simply because of Turbulence. And so I think it's like a high potential deck where if you think like the metagame evolves in your favor, I think you can pick Rescue as a tournament and do really, really well.
Yeah. I think I would put it below Mermail. That's what I would say. And I would say Rescue Ace. I'll go with 2 Rescue Ace players. Yeah, I'll go with 2 Rescue Ace players making it into top 64. Yeah, 2 to 3 sounds about right. And I think it's definitely a tendency that we saw Tenpai players kind of shying away from those breaker approaches. I think we saw more Tenpai players more so going for just the pure hand interaction approach. Now you have Fuvalos, you have Impulse, you have you can draw into all the cards. So at some point people might even be starting to cut Lightning Storm from their main deck, and that of course can only be favorable for Rescue Ace if it does happen for this event already.
Yeah, but not only that, because like a card like Azamina Ilya Silva is an Omni negate. So right now you have a negate for cards like Lightning Storm and Duster.
True.
You might be forced to use it earlier, but in theory, if your opponent lets you do your stuff, you can often get to the negate.
True.
Which is also like a deck that I could think that couldn't do before.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, for sure. Next up on the list, we do have another deck that was very successful at YCS Lille, and that would be Ritual Beast. Herman Hansen, of course, we're getting first after Swiss with that set Ritual Beast deck. And yeah, with Ritual Beast, it's always, for me, it's a little bit of a mixed bag, because I do see the potential. There's very obvious potential with it, but I also I don't think it's very appealing to a lot of the players to play it, and therefore it's like always so super low represented. And also, like, realistically, sure, Shifter is not a card because the deck runs it itself, but Purulia and Fuvalors are both really, really good against Ritual Beast. So yeah, you have that Shifter factor working in your favor, that you are unaffected by it, that you can even run it yourself, so you have like good matchups where you resolve it. But then you have also the really, really bad situation having to play against Fuvalos and Purulia.
Yeah.
And therefore, I think it's worse situation, like it's in a worse situation compared to Lille, if you ask me, compared to last format.
Yeah, I agree. I think the deck is not that appealing right now, simply because it also cannot fit that much non-engine.
Yeah.
Which is an issue. Also, like, people are now preparing more and more for Shifter and stuff. And setting it deeper against Ritual Beast is also not the worst idea I've ever heard. And now, I mean, it's maybe even stronger than before to go Protoss Call Fire. But the question is, how often do you get to Protoss without your opponent having like Valor or Imperm?
Yeah,
or maybe even Impulse. I mean, even Impulse is kind of gated.
Oh, yeah, you can't even play Impulse yourself, right?
Yeah, you can play Impulse. Your deck can play Purge, but Purge is not closely as strong as Impulse.
Nah.
So yeah, for me, it fell off. It also fell off from the Challenger category, in my opinion. I think it's not a rogue deck yet. I think there's still potential in the deck to perform well, but I just don't think that even good pilots can make the difference on the deck right now. And that's a big issue.
For sure. I think it's fair to say it's the last deck in high potential, right?
Yeah, probably, yeah. I would agree on that.
And I will say it is going to be... it's going to be... Even though it is above the rogue category, I will also put out the number 1 with one player topping with the deck, just because it's such a small amount of people even bring it to the tournaments. It's crazy. People just don't play Ritual Beast. I mean, we also just told you there's not many great reasons to play it at the moment, but just people are so scared of the deck because it's such a long-winded combo deck, so they just always be like, I'll just go play Tenpai.
Yeah. Why would you play like Ritual Beast as like a super tough deck where you can also get screwed by all the non-engine right now when you could just play Tenpai?
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Okay, next up on the list is a deck that is, to me, very, very, very interesting. Because, for example, Vincenzo Orofino just this weekend as well won the Rome Regional with this deck with Runick White Forest. And I am wondering how he did it, because I don't really see... Like, Runicks... I love Runicks. I've had tournament success with Runick Livestream Sprite, for example. I love Runick. I'm not Joshua Schmidt, but I also have really, really high opinion on the Runick cards. But special summoning from your extra deck is not particularly good into that Mulchami Fuvalos. And this deck special summons a lot from the extra deck if you want to play your regular turn.
I mean, thank you for mentioning it, because I also wanted to say I have no idea how he won the regional.
I mean, he's a crazy player, right? That's probably the explanation,
definitely. But I think the deck is horrible right now. I think it's not even rogue, in my opinion. Because the deck has one severe issue that all Runick decks have. It's a limited amount of non-engine space, and Runick decks really, really thrive in slower meta games, like we saw in Kashtira format, because the Kashtira deck didn't put up that much of a board. The Runick 1-for-1 trades that cards like Flashing Fire, Freezing Curses, and to an extent Destruction/Tip provides is so much better if your opponent does not full Fire King combo. You simply cannot push through that. Breaker cards are not as good right now, simply because of Ilya Silva being an Omni Negate. You cannot just go, end of main evenly, because they'll say, I negate it.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, Fuvalos, I don't think for the White Forest deck specifically, Fuvalos is the biggest issue. It hurts, but you can like play around with only like 2 summons from extra deck and deck,
Mm-hmm.
but not always, and that's just okay, your board then. And then I'm just asking myself, yeah, what do I do then? Because if like only summon twice or so, I still give my opponent 2 draws. That means he went +1, and I don't have a real end field. I have a weaker end field, and I think just every deck right now pushes through that because like the power level of the game is just so high.
I also think so. It makes me. Can we really put this in maybe next time though?
For me, it is because if you tell me one person tops it, I'll say it's Vincenzo or Rufino. But if I just like leave out the player factor, I would say if one tops, I would be super surprised. So for me, then maybe next time deck.
Yeah, better than Melodious though, right?
Yeah, that's okay with me.
Okay, and now I'm surprised because you told me in the beginning that Fire King is the 3rd best deck of the format for you right now.
Yeah.
And there basically is only 2 decks that I could see you putting on top of them out of the 4 we have remaining here. And therefore, Snake Eye... Tearlaments, baby. Tearlaments, baby, of course. No, so Snake Eye has to be above Fire King, in your opinion, huh?
Yeah, to me, Snake Eye right now is the best deck of the format.
Ooh, the best deck of the format even.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe that's a bit... Maybe I'm a bit biased because right now I like the deck building approach to Snake Eye.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have like a lot of different ways you can go. You can play the Chimera package, which in my opinion right now is very, very strong.
Yes, agreed.
Simply because of players opting to use cards like Fuvalos and Shifter in the main phase.
Yeah.
Because you can't always like do it in draw phase, because I think breaking is also an issue right now, and talents is not really real. I mean, yes, people sometimes play 1 or so, but it's not like people have decided to play 3 talents or so, and that's why I think you can wait with cards like Fuvalos. Also to like screw your opponent a bit up, because if Fuvalos comes in draw phase, your opponent can plan his whole turn. If it comes like mid-main phase, they cannot.
Yeah.
And also like a card like Dimension Shifter, if your opponent activates the Hallowed Azamina to summon a fusion once and you chain Shifter, that's a lot more devastating than using Shifter and draw phase.
Yep, I totally agree, for sure.
The only issue I have with that deck is that Dominus Impulse gets a lot worse in the main deck specifically, because it locks you out of the Kashtira effects.
True.
That might still be fine, but it's a bit worse. But I also like the play of or like the synergy between the Kashtira cards and Deception. Because normally your problem was like you have Fenrir, you special it, and it just sticks on a field. You can't really combo with it because, yeah, what are you searching? You search another Fenrir, you don't do anything.
Yeah.
What you now can do is you special Fenrir, you search Unicorn, and then you use Deception tributing the Fenrir. So you have an empty field and can special Unicorn, Unicorn search Birth, and in the end you get Unicorn plus Fenrir for free.
True. Yeah, that is actually a pretty good reasoning that you give us there. Yeah. I'm struggling though whether I can realistically put it above Fire King. I think I like Fire King a lot at the moment. I would personally I personally think Fire King is above Snake Eye. But they're super close. They're both like, of course, like there's no discussion obviously that this comes up here. We just have to figure out where to put it exactly. And
yeah, I think I still need to add a few more things for that. But go you on first. You can go on first.
I'm having another question because the Snake Eye variant, it's played in different ways at the moment. Like you can either go for the Azamina line, you can go for the Fiendsmith line, or the line of approaching the deck building process, or you can even play both.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Like, I personally would say for Fire King, it's very clear that it's usually just Azamina, I would say, because they just work very well together. I think for Snake Eye, it's a little tougher of a call. And I think the engine of Snake Eye, nowadays, because so many cards are hit on the list, is not even that big anymore. Therefore, you definitely have the space to run both. I just don't know whether it's worth running both, to be honest. Are the Fiendsmith cards really running? Are they worth running anymore?
I'm not 100% sure, but I think like all 3 options are viable.
Yeah.
I think you can play either. You can play Cash Hero and Fiendsmith. Then you have like the best
True.
ceiling, but you get like a lot weaker to cards like Super Poly as an example. And also you cannot you lose a lot of extra deck space.
Yeah,
That's
fair.
what you gotta think about. I think if you play Fiendsmith cards, you only play one Engraver, nothing else, in a main deck. You just play Little Brick as an extender to extend your combos.
Yeah.
But I think there's also like there could be a reason to play neither of them to like fully use the whole power of Dominus Impulse. That
Yeah.
could also be an idea.
So let's say we're rolling a dice now because I want to put it behind Fire King, but you want to put it on top of Fire King. So I find like you can't convince me. I'm still thinking Fire King is a little bit better. So we have to make it random because
I want to add one thing. One thing I wanted to add.
Yeah, go ahead. And I found the dice in the meantime.
Yeah. That was that. I think also the pure Snake deck plays a lot better against Drone Lockbird, a card people are picking up right now.
True.
Maybe only inside. A lot of people only cited Drone Lockbird, but I think like against a few matchups like Yubel, it's super strong. I think also Memento, it's okay. It's good against, not super crazy, but especially against Fire King, Drone Lockbird is good. And also the deck can, in my opinion, play a bit better under Dimension Shifter than Fire King. Because you have like more non-engine, you have like the Kashtira cards to play under it, and also you can summon Kiki Nagashi Fucho.
Fucho.
Yeah, under Shifter, which is, I mean, the Fire King deck theoretically can do it again as well, but I think it's like a bit more natural in the Snake deck. Also, it has more non-engine space and not like that Fire King cards on Shifter.
Okay.
But roll the dice, do it.
Even as Fire King, on top, it is a 3. Okay, fine.
Easy.
Snake Eye best
I
deck.
knew it already. Luck is on my side today.
Snake Eye best deck. Giving you the raw numbers. Don't forget about our guessing game in the comments. I will give you a total of 13 Snake Eye decks. It's tough though because you're having the different variants and that will add up eventually. I will go a little high. I will go 15.
Yeah, I would have also said like maybe 16 or so, 16 or 17 probably.
Yeah, fair enough. But definitely a pretty high number. Because
I think it's just like the most consistent deck. That's the biggest thing. I think it's like more consistent than Fire King, Yubel, and all the other decks.
Yeah, I like it. Next up, Tearlaments, baby.
Tearlaments, yeah.
There is different ways of playing the deck at the moment. We even saw this weekend that Dinkabui was cooking some Paleo Tearlaments, which is, of course, a very fun variant of the deck. And then there's the 60 card approach with Grass is legal now on TCG. And also more of a Steamline approach with 40 cards, usually running Super Poly and more relying on like a very, very impactful deck with Talents and Soul and Breakers usually. But none of them really is convincing me a whole lot at the moment. We are in a D-Barrier format. We are in a Tenpai format. Both things pretty bad for this deck. It's a rogue deck still, right? Isn't it?
I mean, rogue is even kind, honestly. I mean, my teammate Tai, he played it at a Starlight Cup yesterday. And he had a lot of fun, that's for sure. We also had a lot of fun as a team. But I don't know if Tearlaments was his first pick. I cannot imagine that. It's also like a very stressful. I mean, let's put it at the bottom of Rogue. Let's do it that favor. Like
honestly, it's better than Branded, isn't it?
Yeah, okay, put it above Branded, but below the Exodia. That's very important for me. No, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Paleo tier is better than Pure tier. I don't know. Don't ask me. But I don't think the deck is in a very good spot right now. It's also a very stressful deck with time right now.
For sure.
That's also, I think, an issue. Because if you play like a 12-round event, like maybe 9 rounds day one, you don't want to sit there 1 hour in overtime, 20 minutes every turn, every round.
Yeah, I mean, the next deck doesn't have that problem, certainly, because Tenpai games tend to not take that long. Tenpai, honestly, I think I want to put it into first place. I want to put it top of meta, but yeah, but the problem is, it's just still that deck that cannot be the best deck. I think it's incredibly good. I think it is amazing. I think we're going to have loads of Tenpai in the top cut, but it is just by its design a deck that can't really be the best deck, just because if it is the best deck and everyone cares about it so much, it's just so easy, quote unquote, to counter. On the other hand,
Is it
I
right
have
now?
yeah. What do you mean? Is it right now? Is it easy to
Is it
counter or
is
not?
it so easy to counter Tenpai right now?
The thing is, when you're talking to like the Tenpai players, apparently like they're playing through 3 threatening roars on 3 consecutive turns. They're playing through everything. They don't care about it. And
Yeah.
I've seen, I would say, I've seen a surprising amount of games where Tenpai was grinding with their opponent, which is a funny thing to say, but it is like a lot of people are saying it's that one trick deck that has to win on the second turn, that only has that one game plan. That's not true. Seriously, I don't think it is that one-sided. I think
Yeah.
Tenpai definitely is capable at the moment of playing a little longer of a game with the opponent, and definitely is capable of grinding, not to an incredibly long degree, but it definitely can do a fair bit of grinding with the opponent. And it's definitely a top meta deck, like no
Yeah,
discussion.
100%. I think the best thing for Tenpai right now is that there are a lot other decks that are also like fighting for top spot with it.
Yeah,
Because that means you cannot really just go like, yeah, I play 3D barrier, 3 threatening roar
Yeah.
in my side deck.
true,
Because
true.
then like your whole side deck is full for Tenpai, which might be an option for Bologna, honestly, because I know a lot of Italian players play Tenpai. But
True.
I mean, if it's not only like Tenpai, if like Fire King activates Mochami Fuvalos, I don't want to have Threatening Roar in my hand. I don't think like Threatening Roar is the card I want to have.
Not
And
really,
that's
yeah.
the issue in the end. And also, if you like have the strategy of going for three thrust, 1 barrier, one DDG, I don't want to add 3 more threatening war also, because then I have like 8 going first cards. What am I doing with 8 going first cards?
It's fairly interesting. I don't know. It's definitely a top meta deck, but it
Yeah,
probably has to be behind the other two, behind
for
the
me, it's,
other.
for me, it's in between. If you ask me,
Ooh.
I think that's the interesting thing. I don't think there is like that much that separates pure Snake Eye and pure and Fire King Snake Eye.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think like the Tenpai deck, in my opinion, feels like a second slot deck right now somehow.
Okay, I mean, I wanted to. I was saying I would love to put it first, but it cannot be the first place deck for me just by pure nature, being a go second deck and all that kind of stuff. Then putting it into second place seems kind of reasonable. I like it.
And the reason why I think like it can grind right now is a simple reason. It's like bestial control in that aspect. Not that it has like the bestials that are like so good or so, but
Yeah.
your opponent needs to invest some cards to like counter the Tenpai deck. Let it be like a card like Threatening or D-Barrier or so. And then the deck can still set up like a quick play spell plus seals. And
Yeah.
like Hieratic Seal of Heavenly Spheres is like probably one of the best card if you're getting in a simplified game state there, because it's like
sure.
interrupt plus follow up in one card. And that's what, in my opinion, really makes the Tenpai deck the best, because if Seal summons Fadra and Fadra reverse Chandra, it's not easy to out that field like through like 1 or 2 hand traps the Tenpai deck will always have.
Yeah, for sure. I think I already went quite high on the Fire King number, but for me,
you
without
did.
a doubt, just with how everything lines up, Tenpai is a people's favorite, and Tenpai will not only be the most represented deck in the event, I'm pretty sure it will also be the most represented deck in Top Cut.
Definitely.
And I will, wow, how high can I go? I already went so high for Fire King, so I will have to go a little lower here. So I would say it's going to be 19 Tenpai players in top 64.
19, yeah, I think it will be a third. I think it will be the 22. I think it will be more than 1/3 of Tenpais in Top Cut, probably.
Fair.
What I would say is like I think like the 3 top decks together will take up about 2/3 of the Top Cut.
Yeah,
I think they're clearly the best decks.
That's usually how it lines up. Yeah, I can see that for sure. We like in recent meta games usually had that like those top decks, those top meta decks usually took up like 2/3 of the pie chart. Sometimes down to like 50%, but 50% to 2/3 between the top meta decks definitely makes sense. And I gave away. I think I gave. When I'm checking in on my numbers, I think I gave like 50 spots to the 3 decks in the top category. Maybe I high rolled a little bit there, my bad. But I mean, you can do it better in the comments and win a display for free. Okay, last but not least.
Yeah.
That's a deck I think we recently even put into Rogue, the Labyrinth strategy,
Yeah.
but I gotta say it feels a little better again because, hear me out, because it is supposed to have a really good Tenpai matchup. And we just said Tenpai is going to be everywhere. Tenpai is
Yeah.
literally everywhere. And Labrynth going first is supposed to be really, really strong into Tenpai. Of course, it's, again, player dependent. Good players might be able to outperform the Labrynth players and so on and so forth. But in general, I think it has a good matchup, a really, really positive and favorable matchup into Tenpai. And
I don't
therefore, I
know.
think Labrynth, I think so for sure. I think definitely, if you compare the two decks against each other, if you let, like, in a theoretical world where two computers play against each other and one of them plays Tenpai and the other plays Labrynth, I think you're definitely going to get to a 70% win rate with Labrynth at least, honestly.
I'll tell you the issue. The issue is, in my opinion, especially that if you look at the top three decks, they're all fire decks, and all of them play Dominus Impulse.
Yeah.
And Dominus Impulse is so crazy against Labyrinth as long as they don't get to Lady first. As long as they don't get to Lady early,
True.
they will be crushed a lot by Dominus Impulse
You
and
mean
Ash
Lovely,
Blossom.
right? Yeah, you mean
No,
Lovely.
I mean the one you can chain. I mean Lady Labyrinth with Silver Castle. The one you
But
can chain because Impulse is a normal trap.
oh, you mean, oh yeah, I see. Yeah, true. You can impulse the welcome traps even under Lovely because it's of course not a monster effect, man.
Yeah, no. You can't Ash under Lovely, but you can
Yeah.
Impulse under Lovely.
Yeah.
But under Lady, if you Impulse, you get rid of the extra body, but your opponent can just set another trap
True.
because they can just chain to Impulse, and that's what I think is the biggest issue of the deck. I think the Temper matchup is okay. I mean, in theory it's good, but it can like quickly get like very, very rough with them still playing like at least the Feather Duster, maybe also Lightning Storms, and then Ash
Yeah.
plus Impulse. I think that makes the matchup very tough. Also, the Fire King matchup, in my opinion, is horrible. And I don't
Still,
think
yeah,
like I
of
have
course. It
yeah, and
never,
I don't
no, it
think
never changed. It never changed.
yeah, and I think that's the biggest issue of the deck right now. And I wouldn't even know which version I want to play. If I want to play like the heavy trap version or the furniture version.
Same,
And
yeah. I
yeah,
wouldn't
for
be sure
me
either.
personally, it's a rogue deck, but I likely at the top of rogue. And if you tell me like one or two labyrinth top, I wouldn't be surprised because I feel like the deck maybe you can find a good version. I don't think so. There is one, but maybe you can find one.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's top of Rogue. I would, out of looking at the list there, I would probably out of those decks play. Yeah, I would prefer Labyrinth the most because it also gives you a good flexibility. It's a very skillful deck. Definitely still since its release, basically. But I do understand your concerns regarding Dominus Impulse specifically. On the other hand, when you're telling that story, you also have to tell the story though that the Molchamis are horrible against this deck. So people are going to, especially in game one, because in game two and three they probably are siding them out. They aren't going to have the option to resolve their Molchamis very efficiently against this deck.
But are they that horrible? I mean, yeah, they are not super good, but I mean, Fuvalos often will draw a card. I guess. That's okay. That's not super good, yeah, but it's okay probably.
I mean, do you just
But
activate it into an open, like, do you activate it as first action on your turn, or what do you
if
do?
my opponent
Because,
sets 5, I do it in my draw phase, yeah.
yeah, I
Simply
guess.
because I have no other option. And also you shouldn't forget, I mean, if you're talking about like a deck like Tenpai, yeah, that's a lot better there because they main like 5 to 6 Mulchamis, but most of the decks will main 3 and 3
Yeah.
Perulia, and they just side out the Fuvalos for game 2 and 3. And I don't think you win often enough game 2 and 3 then, even
Yeah.
if you win game 1.
I'll say two as well. I think two Labyrinth players are going to make it into top 64. I could see it only being one. I could also see it being zero, as
Yeah.
for most of the rogue decks. But it's, as you can clearly see here by our overview, the rogue deck we have the highest hopes for
Yeah.
this event. It's still a rogue deck, in our opinion, but let us know in the comments if you are a Labyrinth enjoyer and you think the event will be crushed by Labyrinth. Maybe Dinkabui is returning to the deck. Maybe Trita, you talked about him earlier, you teamed up
Who
with him this
knows?
weekend, is returning to the Labyrinth deck. Who knows, who knows, who knows. That's the beauty about those events, right? You can theorize it all out very well, but then one specific event, of course, is always going to be a complete surprise back because you just cannot predict the future. Luckily, right? Otherwise, that would be kind of weird. But yeah, thank you, Philip, for joining me once more here
You're
for this
welcome.
edition of the meta analysis here for the November pre-YCS Bologna analysis edition. And thank you everyone as well for watching this video. Make sure to give me your prediction in the comments, giving me your full top 64 breakdown. Also, of course, if you're here until the end of this video, make sure to tell me that in the comments because that's great. That was another 1 hour plus episode here, I'm pretty sure. So appreciate you watching and appreciate all the support. Make sure to also like this video and subscribe to the channel for the algorithm. See you for more content here on this channel very soon, and also see you